Good morning, folks, and welcome to another review of irons by Armitage Leather. I have had so many emails in relation to these irons. When are you going to review these irons? What do you think of these irons? Are they any good? I finally have had my set of Crimson Hide French irons arrive. And they have sent me a 9-tooth, a 5-tooth and a 2-tooth set and some thread, which I thought was quite amusing because I've got some 0.4 in grey. I can stitch in that, that's fine. I've got some 0.5 in yellow, cool, my colour, I can deal with that. And then there's the 0.6 in turquoise, my favourite colour, evidently. So I'm going to have to stitch in turquoise because they sent it to me, and we need to find out what thread it works. I'm also going to be using the good old-fashioned 0.6mm tiger thread as well. Now, look at these. Let me zoom in. Let me take them out of the box and zoom in so you can have a closer look at what we're looking at. So here is a close-up of the iron. Now this is a 9-tooth 7 SPI, that's 3.85mm French style iron, and have a look at those teeth. How shiny and lovely are they? But how thin are they? Oh my goodness, look at that, they almost disappear when you turn them sideways. And they don't broaden up towards the top that much. Now, they're made of the same steel that the other ones were. Now, these were the previous Crimson Hide irons, and they were just Crimson Hide irons. But they've renamed these their Japanese style, and they've renamed these their French style. Why the French get the name, I don't know. But we've only got one company in France making irons. We've had loads in England, but I suppose there's only one company left in there in France. This is interesting. Watch this. These are both 3.85, both 7 SPI. They're both absolutely the same. The profile of the tooth is different. We have our diamond awl, and these ones are set at 35 degrees. We have our flat tooth, pricking iron style, and these are set at 45 degrees. How exciting is that? 45 degrees. That was a minor bugbear I had with the European style. Not so with the French style. And I am just blown away by those. They are gorgeous. So, they're almost the same size as the others. If we put them together, they're almost pretty much the same size. So, everything stands to reason. Now, you can get these from Crimson Hide, and I'll put a link down the bottom. And if you're of a mind, you can go to my website, and I'll put a link down here where you can download the Pricking Iron Review Pack, and all the specifications that I'm going to read you, very quick glance all in here, are going to be included in there. I'm not going to do the lengths, the widths, the teeth. I'll do a little bit about the teeth. But the tip of the tooth is 2mm wide. It's 2.1mm to be precise, but it broadens up to 2.9mm, so 0.8mm, that's not a lot. And then we've got the thickness of the tooth, which is obviously sharp at the point, but then as it comes up towards the body, it goes up to 1.32mm thick. How awesome is that? That's going to give you a really fine slit. The only other iron that does this that well so far is the KS blade. And now we've got that on the Crimson Hide. Now, interestingly, if you are looking at different irons, these you can buy as a 2 iron set. They come in different combinations. I've got the 2, the 5 and the 9, and different size irons come. I mean, there's a 10-tooth option if you start getting down towards the 2.5 and 2.7. Size irons, and then you get the 10-tooth options. I think they come in 2, 6 and 10-tooth options. Have a look at the website, have a look at the info pack rather than me spieling it out here. But these irons, if you just to buy the 2-tooth and the 9-tooth, would set you back 190 Singapore dollars. That equates to 134 dollars, US dollars, and 109 UK pounds. That's obviously dependent on import duty as well. If you get stung for 20% VAT and import charges, that's going to put it up somewhat. But even so, with those charges, it's still not a bad price. And you could throw in an extra one as well. Now, I'm just bowled over by these. They're made from DC53 tooling steel and heat treated, which means they are hard as nails. But the most important thing, do they work? Let me zoom out a little bit and let's find out. I can see I'm going to spend most of this video zooming in and out. Let me just run a nice light stitch line. Because the teeth are flat, we're going to be straddling that line. We don't really want a heavy line because we want the line to disappear beneath the stitching when we make the hole. So I'm just going to spend a little time with the first strike, making sure that those teeth straddle. I'm just going to give it a kiss for a minute. I'm not going to go all the way through. That felt like it almost went through. That's a good depth to the point of, yeah, that was a good depth. Look at that. That's absolutely amazing. Beautiful angle, lovely small hole, really, really well presented. I'm just going to tap those down. Look at that. Almost disappearing already. That is absolutely stunning. I'm really impressed with those. So what I'm going to do is take a pad and put it behind the leather. And now I'm going to go all the way through. I'm really, really happy with how these look. Good thump. And we've got there about 2 mil of steel poking through. Having a look at that hole again. That's a nice clean hole. Let me get the sheet, pop it behind. Look at that. It's like switching lights on. However, let's grab the normal hammer and tap down. Do the same again. Almost disappearing. Still there, but that gives us a really fine line. I'm going to struggle stitching that, so I'm going to open that up again, but that's indicative of what we're going to achieve once we've stitched and tapped down. That's just gone through an absolute dream. Straddle a couple of holes, move that down. Really easy to see. That comes out so easy. These polished teeth are wonderful. The last two teeth are in the last two holes, or the first two teeth are in the last two holes, which means I only need to worry about the end one. And the polish and the precision, one strike, look at that, straight through. The precision and the polish of the teeth just make it easy to line up those teeth on that line. So easy, so wonderful. That is beautiful. I'm so happy with that. Well, Crimson Hide, you have done wonders. Right, so that is my first row of holes. That's going to be my 0.6mm tiger thread. I've got 3 other threads to play with here, the 4, the 5 and the 6. The grey, the yellow and the turquoise. So let me make 3 more sets of holes. You don't need to watch me do that. You've seen it do everything that it needs to. That's lovely. That's really nice. I want to do that. Then we'll go to the clam and we'll have a look and see what happens when we start stitching. Let's have a look at that. And we are good to go. So, a pair of John James number 4 needles, 50mm long, 0.82mm wide, and some 0.6mm braided polyester, Ritzer 25 tiger thread, and we're away. Now, the first thing that I'm noticing is these holes are offering quite a bit of resistance to the needle. That's actually gripping the needle quite a lot, which means it's quite snug, and that's what you want from a good stitch. You want each stitch to lock in. Now, the vast majority of us aren't making a working seam. This is saddle, bridle, harness, tack, where you're going to be putting under, or putting the seam under duress. It's working hard, and we have to ensure that the thread doesn't move independently of the leather, because then we're looking at either the thread furring, snapping and failing, or if we're using something like polyester thread, then the thread soaring and cutting the leather and the leather failing. That would be tragic. But if we're making wallets, bags, cases, slips and the like, then that's not so much of an issue. So these modern irons lend themselves well to a modern style of making. You can use these irons as traditional pricking irons and open the holes up with an awl. That would work really, really well. But that's not how we're using them. But even so, I've gone through this leather, and this leather is waxy dye through, 3.5mm thick in black from Le Prevost up in Newcastle upon Tyne, and it's probably been half an hour since I made the holes, because I've just put the chicken into marinade. So the holes have already begun to close up, and I'm feeling the needle dragging against the hole. The teeth are flat, and this also is causing an element of friction, but that's working for us. None of it is at all negative. If you do find you are struggling, if you want to use something like a 0.8 or a 1mm thread and really choke up that stitch, then there's nothing wrong at all with using a soft awl, that is an awl that is blunt, because the hole's already made. We're not looking at making a new hole, and we can use a soft awl to open the hole up. All that does is stretch the hole, and the leather will then begin to shrink back as soon as you've taken the awl out. It works in a very similar process to using a normal awl with traditional saddle stitch. But I'm getting a nice feel for this. I don't know how it looks like, because I'm up here, you're across there. You know what it looks like already. But certainly it feels very consistent. There's the same sort of element of drag to every pass of the needle, which is telling me that that leather is gripping the thread a little more than some other irons. That's a good thing. But it's not difficult. Not so hard that I'm finding it difficult to stitch. The holes are 2mm long and only slits. Look at that. Seconds it's done. Let's snip these off. Let's get rid of this. I am going to have a quick look. Have you seen that? Look at that. How lovely. Look at that. I say. And the back's given a reasonable representation of itself as well. The back will always struggle. It's always going to be a little flatter by the very nature of what we're trying to do with our stitch. Both the threads are coming in from the top of the last hole to the bottom of the next hole, and they are trying to come out of the bottom hole or come out of the top hole to go into the bottom hole again, but they're passing each other. So this is going to work against itself. It's always going to work against itself. But we've got other techniques. If you look at my Vimeo channel in relation to stitching and how to deal with the other side of the thread, it goes into far more detail than I will here. Now, I'm not going to make you watch me do this. I'll get underway and then come back. But my next is a 0.6 Crimson Hide thread, BL2 or BLZ, and this is turquoise, hideous colour. Nice for a pair of socks, not for leather. So folks, let me thread this up and then come back when I'm underway. So we're underway with a 0.6 crimson thread. Now, usually with these other threads, you tend to find after the first pull, the first time you apply tension, there's a bit of stretch. Well, I'm not entirely sure if it was the fact that this is 0.6 or if the thread is actually that good or pre-stretched, but there was none. There was no stretchy pull after that first stitch. That kind of gives a lot of confidence in the thread. It's quite nice. It's very similar to Vinimo, MBT or MTB, and now I quite like that because it's round. This is round. It's available in a lot of colours and it's exceptionally strong. Now, many of you know my thoughts and feelings on linen. I do use it, but mainly in repairs. As a matter of course, I don't choose to use it in items because I don't feel I can guarantee long rows of thread or long rows of stitching being completed without at least one or two snaps taking place. Then you've got joins, and I dislike that. I don't want to see joins in a row stitching. A row stitching should be done completely with no joins, even by hand, and linen doesn't allow me. I am a little ham-fisted, I grant you. I'm used to using a heavier leather. I'm not a fine leather user. You don't tend to find me using shrunken calf and goat and pigskin other than in linings. So I'm used to using a nice shoulder or a butt, and as a result, when I come to use linen, I apply quite a bit of tension. If you're using linen on goat or something like that, you're using far less tension, then I suspect it would work well. But certainly for this, I'm putting a good level of tension. I'm probably putting, I don't know, 30 pound of pressure onto that thread every time I pull it. So you start doing that with linen, it's going to give up. Let's have a quick look at the turquoise. What do you think? There'll be some of you out there going, oh my goodness, that's lovely, I like that colour. No one in here is saying that. It's alright, even the back's not too bad. Rough fibres, large and separate. If we were to put a piece of face leather on the back of that, even stitched from this side, it'd actually be rather nice. So I'm going to set up the number 5 in yellow. Let me do that, come back when I've got a few stitches in. Now, rather than you come back halfway through the stitching, I want you to get the first one, because this is now 0.5mm. This is thinner. And I wanted to capture on video any pull. So let's give it first tension. There's a bit of stretch, but not a massive amount. Let's go. Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, it's 0.5mm thick. Not as much now. That initial pull seems to stretch it out. Yeah, I'm feeling that I'm getting good tension at the stitch. I'm taking my tension right out. I should be doing it here, but I'm taking it right out because I'm trying to get a feel for the thread. Feels strong. I can tell that I'm stitching 0.5. The 0.6 felt extremely similar to the tiger thread. They are, after all, both the same diameters. This is 0.5. I appreciate it's only 0.1 difference, but nonetheless, I can feel the difference. This is just sailing through. But this thread is actually hanging nice. If you watch it after I complete the stitch, it relaxes down and hangs. It's not trying to bounce everywhere as some threads tend to. And that gets to be a little bit of a pain when you're stitching with a fine thread, as the thread's bouncing round everywhere. Whereas this is just hanging, it's behaving itself very well, and it feels rather nice. I'm rather hoping it looks nice. So I'm going to finish this up. I will come back when we hit the 0.4 in grey before we finally have a look at all the stitching together. So, go and have a cup of tea, check your emails, come back in a minute. So here I am, well underway with the grey. Little bit of stretch, in fact, to be fair, quite a reasonable bit of stretch at the outset. But it is 0.4mm thick. Now, I did, before I moved the piece on, have a cheeky little peek at the stitching. And I thought at the outset that the 0.6 looked quite nice on both the tiger and the crimson hide thread. But the 0.5 I think looks nice. Now, on the 0.4, I'm seeing a lot more hole. The thread's that much finer. Now, if you like your French style of stitching, that may be something that really appeals to you. I'm not keen. I just want to see thread. I don't want to see hole. So, it's personal preference, isn't it? But, again, this can be a little bit problematic, 0.4mm. Nylon, polyester can be a little bit problematic in itself. But again, you can see after every stitch, this thread just hangs down. It's really behaving itself very, very well. This bouncy thread that you can get that's all over the place, it doesn't lend itself well to fun stitching, whereas this actually does. I quite like the colour. Not sure about the turquoise, but certainly the grey. Look at that. Right, so let me snip my threads off. Have a quick nose. Let me look first. See, maybe the colour. The grey might be lessening it slightly because of the colour. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap these down, smarten them all up, then we're going to go to the bench and we're going to have a good close-up look. So there we go. 4 rows of stitching. Top row 0.6 tiger thread. Second row 0.6 crimson hide thread. Third row 0.5 crimson hide thread, the one I like the most. And number 4 is 0.4 crimson hide, the one I like the least, because I think there's too much hole, too fine a thread. I think if it probably were a brighter thread, less sort of hidden in with the leather, it might look a little different. But I think the old the number 5, the 0.5, actually gives a good representation. But that being said, even that turquoise looks rather nice. Not my choice. Not my choice. People keep on sending me blue thread, and I will have a play with it, but out of choice I wouldn't necessarily add it to an item. But actually that does look rather striking. It makes the stitching look good. And I dare say if I was stitching in blue leather, never going to happen, then blue thread would fit. No, not going to do it. So there we have the 3.85mm 7 SPI French style iron from Crimson Hide, and what an excellent representation it's given of itself. Look at that lovely polish to those teeth. So easy to use, so nice. Honestly folks, really, you've got to balance up what you want from an iron. Budget is a massive consideration. We can all look at the most expensive thing. You know, who wouldn't love to drive around in a Bentley or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, or whatever your choice of expensive car is, but we don't because we can't afford it. You know, we'd love to use Doldoki, but we don't because we can't afford it. You know, some people can, some people can't. It's all about budget. But if budget is a factor, these are not a bad price. 109 quid, 190 Singapore dollars, 134 US dollars for 2 irons. That is not unreasonable at all. There are other irons out there that do a fantastic job. They really are, but they're a bit more expensive, so that might push it out of your budget. But we've got budget, we've got durability, and we've got performance. These things are made from DC53 tooling steel and case hardened. They're going to last. They look good. They're easy to use. They're affordable. And more importantly, and this is the most important, you pay a tenner for Chinese iron. And if they do the job, then they do the job. I mean, there are some Chinese irons out there that are cheap as chips, but they do the job. And that's the secret, isn't it? We can spend a lot of money on something that does the same thing, or we can spend less money and work within the confines of our budget that does the same thing. But I think this is a really budget-friendly iron. I would have had the now named Japanese style, because they've given them 2 different names, down as your beginner and intermediate iron, as great irons to start. And I still advocate those. But you can start with these as well. I think if you wanted to stitch heavier leather and wanted a bigger hole, these may help you. I've got 2 fingers out there, sorry. The Japanese style may help you because of the diamond shaped tooth. It'll give you a slightly larger hole. But if you had these French style and you use a soft awl and open that hole up, that would work for you as well. Folks, you can get them from Crimson Hide. I'll stick a link at the end. I'll stick a little bit of a logo up for you, but the product speaks for itself. I hope that helps you make your mind up. Enjoy.